Welcome, you're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. Ukraine's infrastructure ministry is planning the concession of large transportation objects. It will allow businesses to earn on state-owned ports, railway stations and roads. Kherson and Olvia seaports will be the first ones for concession. Applications for the first competition can be submitted as of now. To discuss this, we're joined in the studio today by Viktor Dovhan. He's the advisor to the Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine. So hello and thank you for joining.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So recently, the Verkhovna Rada approved the draft law on concession at second reading, and it stipulates conditions for attracting private capital to manage the state property. What are the main outlines of the new draft law, or the new law to be?
First of all, I am very glad that finally Parliament adopted the law, because we developed the draft law 2 years ago. And if you recall, first time it was adopted in the first reading 1 year ago. Finally, the law is adopted, which is the prime focus is that the law was developed together with the international financial institution, EBRD and World Bank and IFC. It means that all the best practice is incorporated in the text of the law, and all the best mechanism for transferring of the state property, public property, into the operation of the business of the private investor is provided there.
Okay. As I have already mentioned, two Ukrainian ports of Kherson and Olvia are going to be put at concession. Those two state objects have been in the process of being prepared for 2 years. Is that enough?
No, absolutely. Absolutely, it's enough. And moreover, we hoped and believed that the draft law will be adopted on the concession, and we prepared the tender based on the new provisions, on the new mechanism. So I chaired the commission since 1 year, and I would like to say that for the first time in Ukrainian history, in the commission on preparation of the ports for concession, in preparation of the pre-feasibility study, it was, first of all, international consultants for the first time. Second, representative of the local authorities, management of the ports, different ministries. So the maximum transparent procedure was developed to prepare the feasibility.
What could be the stumbling blocks in the process? What could be the hidden risks that we're not aware of?
No, we had 2 weeks ago, we had the roadshow in Odessa for the potential investors. About 30 international companies, together with the Ukrainian local companies operating near in these ports, applied. They were interested. We discussed all the potential risks and possibilities. First of all, it was mentioned that maybe a short period of time is given for providing the application, 60 days. But again, we would like to... The process was started 2 years ago, so everybody who is interested, for instance, even the companies from Qatar, they came for roadshow. So worldwide, not only in Europe, investors knew about this project. The risks are always maybe anti-monopoly committee, clearance, signing of the agreement, challenging into the courts. It is always the issue in Ukraine on this process. But we try to incorporate, at least for the concession agreements, we try to incorporate international arbitration. So these agreements will not be subject to discussion in Ukrainian ports, but in the international arbitration court.
Okay, the proposal submitted by potential investors will be taken a look at by a commission, like an auction. Could you please dwell a little bit more on the mechanism of how it's going to happen?
Again, the commission consists of the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Agriculture, representatives as well, port administration, local authorities, municipal authorities, and which is more important, for the first time, representative of the EBRD and IFC, who develops the feasibility. So not the ministry, not the port administration develops the feasibility of the port concession. It was developed by an international consultant. It means this process is as maximum reliable and transparent. And this commission will, right now, 60 days. Yesterday, it was announced already the application of the proposals for Kherson. Next week will be announced for Olvia. So 60 days the Commission will check the applications.
So what are the main requirements for the investor to come and participate in the tender? Is there a set list that needs to be fulfilled?
We have a criteria, but we try to have this criteria as below as possible. First of all, it's we need a strategic investor. It means, for instance, Port Kherson, the investment amount is about $8 million US. It's not big amount for investment into the port. But again, we need the company who brings the cargo, who knows how to operate the port. And what is interesting in case of Kherson port, it as well combines the river logistics because it's in Dnipro River and maritime logistics. So for us, one of the criteria is please specify what you did for these 3 years. Have you built the river terminal or maritime terminal all over the world?
So this is one of the main requirements that are going to be needed in order to participate in an auction for the Kherson port, right? What about Olvia?
Olvia, it's a big amount. It's the amount of the investment will be 49 million US dollars, because we think that Olvia needs to have a new grain terminal, which is because Ukraine is focusing specifically, this region, Mykolaiv region is focused on the grain exports. That is why we need to have the grain terminals there. That is why the amount of investment is bigger.
Okay, right now we're talking about the international investors, right? The investors that are coming from out of Ukraine. What about Ukrainian investors?
No, absolutely. For instance, number of companies which are operating in Ukraine, operating in the ports of Ukraine, Nibulon, Dnipro Cargo, they're applying as well. But we encourage...
How high are their chances to actually win the auction?
Quite high, because it's not a billion investment amount. So for Ukrainian, for the local investor, is absolutely feasible to put this money into operation. But again, we encourage them to go together with the international companies or together with the EBRD to attract the financing in order to invest, not only to take the money from the port and to invest into the operation of facilities. And what is more important, which we were as well always criticized, that the port investor does not pay for the development of the local infrastructure. For instance, in case of Olvia, investor needs to invest about 5% of the amount 49, so 2.5 million US dollars for the development of the road to the port, because for city of Mykolaiv it's a big problem, the trucks entering the ports of Olvia and Mykolaiv and destroying the road. So it was precondition of the local authority, and it is included to the draft of the concession agreement.
According to the second reading of the draft law, the document includes mechanisms on protecting the interests of the state and investors and facilitates the attraction of private equity. How?
The main difference, we need to come back to the history. How we have what mechanism we use, the investors, local and foreign, use right now in Ukrainian ports. They sign the lease agreement.
Right.
Lease agreement together maybe with some investment agreement, but this is a mixed mechanism which does not bring security for the investors, that an investor will be in the port for like more than 10 years. Yes, the draft concession agreement provides that investors will be at least 30 years. So it's stated. So again, it's predictability. Then state knows what amount of money investor will invest to the port and what amount of money investor will pay to the state budget. It's simple. We took the amount of dividends paid by the ports for the last 3 years and calculated, plus with some formula of growing the cargo, export and transit cargo, plus this is the fixed amount of concession payment. That is why right now it's more secure for the state to understand what will happen in 30 years period with the port. For investor is as well secure what will happen with the port itself.
It's been announced that after seaports, the government of Ukraine is going to take care of the railway stations. Is there any information out there already which ones of those are going to be first laid on the table?
The Ukrainian railway right now is preparing a number of projects. The scenario will be taken as with the ports. We need to do a small project first of all, to see all the risks, to understand.
Like a pilot project.
Pilot project, absolutely. I would not speculate no, for instance, it could be as well the well-known railway station of Mykolaiv, which is absolutely needs to be restored and rebuilt for them. So we will try to do the certain pilot project for the concession, and then bigger projects will be provided for the investors after this pilot project.
Okay.
Of course, the main railway station in Kyiv and the Darnica railway station, which is half-built, are on the list. It is subject to the supervisory board and to the management of Ukrzaliznytsia to define what can be pilot, what can be next.
Well, thank you so much for coming here and explaining us the whole mechanism. We're waiting for the international investors.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
That was Viktor Dovhan. He's the advisor of the Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine. Thank you so much for watching UATV. Stay tuned for the rest.